In the early summer of 1944, the air in the small English village of Wellingborough was thick with the scent of impending change. The sounds of children playing in the streets were juxtaposed with the distant rumble of engines and the cadence of marching boots. For young women like Clara Edwards, the war had transformed daily life into a tapestry of hope and despair, love and loss. But amidst the chaos of the Second World War, something beautiful was about to unfold. An unexpected romance that would transcend the ocean and the ravages of war. Clara, a spirited 22-year-old, had always dreamt of adventure. With her ebony hair pulled back into a neat bun and her bright blue eyes filled with determination, she worked as a nurse at the local hospital. The war had taken many of the men in her life, brothers, friends and neighbors. But Clara remained steadfast, tending to the wounded and offering solace to those who had survived the horrors of battle. The hospital, a blend of sterile white walls and the lingering scent of antiseptic, had become both her sanctuary and her battleground. It was during one of her shifts that she first met Sergeant James Sullivan. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with tousled dark hair and a disarming smile that lit up the dreary hospital room. Having been injured during the D-Day invasion, James lay in a hospital bed, his arm in a sling and a bandage wrapped around his forehead. Clara was drawn to him, not just because he was handsome, but because there was a gentleness in his eyes that pierced through the facade of a soldier. Their conversations began as whispers shared between nurse and patient. They spoke of life before the war, of dreams deferred and families torn apart. James shared stories of his hometown in the United States, how the sun shone brightly on the riverbanks of Minneapolis, illuminating the laughter of children playing in the parks. Clara spoke of her own childhood, her love for the countryside, and her aspirations to travel beyond the shores of England one day. They laughed about the quirks of life, shared heartfelt confessions, and soon their bond deepened into something more profound. As the weeks passed, Clara found herself eagerly awaiting her shifts, hoping to see James's familiar face. He was a soldier, but to her he was more a kindred spirit navigating the tumultuous seas of war. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow in the hospital room, James took Clara's hand. "If I make it through this," he said softly, "I promise to come back for you." The declaration sent a shiver down Clara's spine. She nodded, her heart racing, though the impending uncertainty of war loomed over them. Their connection was undeniable, yet it danced precariously on the edge of fate. With each passing day, James's recovery progressed, and soon he was being discharged. The day of his departure was bittersweet. Clara stood at the hospital gate, the cool breeze tousling her hair as James approached, his army uniform crisp and new. He looked different, more like the soldier he was, yet his eyes still held the same warmth that had drawn her to him. "I'll write to you," he promised, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hand as he brushed Clara's fingers with his own. "And I'll come back, I swear it." Tears welled in Clara's eyes, a mixture of hope and uncertainty swirling within her. She nodded, their fingers lingering for a moment longer before they separated, the weight of the world pressing down on them. Weeks turned into months, and the war raged on. Letters filled with love, longing, and promises flowed between them, each one a lifeline. Clara clung to every word, each faded stamp a reminder of the man who had stolen her heart. She laughed at his jokes, cried at his fears, and dreamed of the day they would be reunited. In one letter, James wrote about his experiences in France, the devastation he witnessed, and the camaraderie among soldiers. "Clara," he wrote, "there's so much pain here, but I think of you and it keeps me going. You're my reason to fight." This letter, like many others, was a small piece of hope that Clara tucked away in her heart. She found herself daydreaming about their future, a quaint little house, laughter echoing through its halls, and evenings spent under the stars. But as days turned into weeks, the letters became less frequent, and Clara's heart sank. In the heart of autumn, word spread through her village of a major offensive in Europe. Clara could feel the tension in the air, the uncertainty gnawing at her. She would hold on to each letter, praying for news of James. The days grew colder, and the nights longer, but she refused to let despair take root. One evening, as Clara sat by the fire, a knock at the door shattered the silence. Her heart raced as she opened it to find a man in military uniform standing on her doorstep, his face grave. Clara's stomach twisted with fear as she took in the somber expression, her mind racing with possibilities. "Miss Edwards?" the soldier asked, his voice heavy with sorrow. "Yes," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry to inform you that Sergeant Sullivan has been reported missing in action." The words hung in the air like a dark cloud, suffocating and heavy. Clara felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her feet. She staggered back, her heart pounding in her chest. "No, it can't be," she gasped, denial surging through her. The soldier's eyes softened with compassion. "We are doing everything possible to locate him. I'm truly sorry." Clara closed the door, her heart shattering into a million pieces. She sank onto the floor, tears streaming down her face. The warmth of the fire seemed distant, the world outside fading into an abyss of despair. Days turned into weeks, and Clara struggled to navigate the silence left in James's absence. She became a ghost in her own life, tending to her duties but moving through each day like a shadow. She longed for him, for his laughter, for the warmth of his embrace. One rainy evening, as Clara sorted through her belongings, she stumbled upon a box of old photographs. Dust motes danced in the light as she carefully opened it, revealing images of her family, friends, and memories of simpler times. Among the pictures she found a faded snapshot of James, his smile bright and infectious. The sight of him brought a wave of warmth, a reminder of the love they had shared. In that moment, Clara made a decision. She would not let fear dictate her life. If James was out there fighting, she would do everything in her power to find him. She would cross the ocean if she had to. With determination burning in her heart, she began to write to the military, searching for answers, for hope, for any sign of James. Weeks turned into months, and just when Clara felt like she might drown in despair, she received a letter. It was from a fellow soldier who had served alongside James. Clara's hands trembled as she opened it, her heart racing with hope. The words spilled out like a lifeline. "Dear Miss Edwards, I regret to inform you that Sergeant Sullivan was captured during a skirmish in France. He is currently a prisoner of war. However, he speaks of you often, and your letters give him strength. I'll do my best to keep you updated." Clara's heart soared and sank in equal measure. James was alive, but he was trapped, held captive in a place unknown. She poured her heart into her letters, writing to him with fervor, filling each page with love, encouragement, and unwavering faith. "My dearest James," she wrote one night, her candle flickering in the dim light. "I believe in you. I believe you'll come home to me. You are my heart and my hope. Hold on to that, my love." As the war dragged on, Clara's commitment to James never wavered. She volunteered with the local Red Cross, organizing supplies for soldiers and their families. Each day she worked, she felt James by her side, urging her forward. In the spring of 1945, the tides began to turn in favor of the Allies. Clara's heart raced with hope as news reports flooded in about battles won and prisoners freed. Then, on a day that felt like any other, a letter arrived bearing a familiar handwriting that sent her heart into a frenzy. "Clara," it began, the ink smudged slightly. "I'm home. I'm finally home." Tears of joy streamed down Clara's face as she read the rest of the letter. James had been liberated from the POW camp when the Allies advanced. He was on his way back to England, and his heart belonged to her. After what felt like an eternity, Clara stood at the train station, her heart pounding in her chest. The air buzzed with anticipation as soldiers returned, some limping, some beaming, all carrying stories of survival. Clara scanned the crowd, her breath hitching as she spotted him. James, looking older yet undeniably himself, his eyes searching for hers. And then, their eyes met. Clara's heart soared as he rushed toward her, sweeping her into his arms. They embraced tightly, the world fading around them. Time stood still, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. "I told you I'd come back," James whispered, tears of joy streaming down his cheeks. "Yes, you did," Clara replied, laughter bubbling up from within her. "And I never doubted it for a moment." As they stood together, the war behind them and the future ahead, Clara knew that they had weathered the storm together. Their love had crossed oceans and endured the harshest of trials, emerging stronger than ever. In the weeks that followed, they began to build their life anew. Clara and James settled into a small cottage nestled by the countryside, where flowers bloomed and the sun bathed their world in golden light. They laughed, shared stories of their experiences, and dreamt of a future filled with possibilities. As they sat on their porch one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, James took Clara's hand in his. "I never want to let you go," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "You never will," Clara replied, her heart swelling with love. "We're in this together, always." Their journey was not without challenges, but they faced each day hand in hand, fortified by the love that had seen them through the darkest of times. They were not just a soldier and a nurse, they were a testament to love's enduring power. Years later, as Clara flipped through their old letters, she smiled at the memories they had created together. Each word, each promise, had woven a beautiful tapestry of life, one filled with laughter, tears, and unyielding love. "The war may have tested us," she whispered, her heart full, "but it also brought us together." And as they raised their family in the warmth of their cottage, they never forgot the lessons learned amid the chaos, a love that could traverse oceans, overcome despair, and thrive even in the face of unimaginable odds. Clara and James, the GI bride and the soldier, had written their own story, one of resilience, hope, and the unwavering power of love.